Hi, everyone on YouTube. I hope you're having a beautiful day. It's Friday. The weekend is almost here. It's a great time to get your scraps together and do this really short, super simple, easy project. Now, you have seen me working on many different styles of my Boro bracelets, and typically you've seen me working on this style. So, people are asking, how do you do this? And first, I'm going to point out how these stitches are visible. Now, the visible stitches can be seen through on the other side, or if you're very conscious of it and you don't want them to show, you can stitch in the top layer, and I'm going to show you what I mean without any stitches showing on the back. It's still Sashiko stitching because the Sashiko is visible stitching. So, and the Boro piece is you taking your recycled fabrics, your used fabrics, remnants, whatever you have. And in the authentic Japanese Boro method, they used organic fabrics like cotton and silk and wool 100%. But I am, amending that method a little in the contemporary, state that we're in this world, and I am, using all recycled fabrics, all blends. So, yes, there's cottons and silks and wool and whatnot here, but there's also blends. So, first you place this bracelet is first, of course, looking like this. Okay, it's a piece of fabric, whether you're cutting it from a waistband like this. This one was cut from a waistband of a pair of pants. It can be a waistband or a cuff of a shirt, even. It might make it really super easy for you. But I wanted to show you this one in particular because if you look, this has 3 layers. It has your top layer, it has your bottom layer, and in the middle, it has batting. There's another layer there. So, someone asked me, "Do you have to use batting?" And the answer is no. When you are making your Boro bracelets, you do not need to put a third piece of fabric in between the top layer and the bottom layer. You don't have to unless you want to. Now, it will give it, like this one, it will give it stiffness. You see how stiff that is? It goes right on. It will give it stiffness. And that's not a bad thing. So you certainly could add the batting. Do you need to go to the store and buy batting? No. You can use a cotton sheet, a piece of flannel. All of those make for nice batting. And if you experiment and you add one piece and then you're like, well, that's kind of thin and whatnot, and then you go add a second piece, you'll see the big difference when you're sewing. Because once you bring these 3 layers together, is where you're starting to see some thickness and stiffness, and you see it really coming together. You see another piece of fabric that you're creating with your Sashiko stitching. So, and Sashiko stitching is what creates your Boro piece. So once you're done stitching everything on, now you have a Boro piece. So I am going to show you I've got a needle and thread here ready because I wanted to show you with this heart. Now this piece also, I stamped all of these words on. Now, you do not want to use washable or Crayola ink stamp pads. You want to use the stamp pad that says pigment, or definitely look for something saying permanent. And then let it set before you start working on it and whatnot. And that way, if it gets wet at all, it's not going to run. This is permanent ink that's not going to run. So I don't know if I can get a good view for you here, but I'm going to take the pin out. I take the pin out. And what I do is I start underneath my piece. And I mean, not all the time. I mean, it doesn't, for me, seriously, it does not matter if the knot at the end is showing. And in Japanese method, they don't even make the knot. They have just a very super easy way of bringing the thread up and then down through the opposite direction, and it just kind of knots itself that way, almost like a weave. If you look it up on Google, you'll see it's super easy. Okay, so my thread is in, and I'm just going to, I just want to show you. So I put the needle in, no needle in the back because I'm in the top layer, and I'm going to pull this through. This needle I'm using is a little big for this fabric, but for the sake of time, I'm not switching out right now. Oops. And I probably made my thread too long. It should just be the length of my arm, and this is a little bit longer. When it's too long, this will start to knot. So you can see it already wants to do it. It cannot. Now, the thread that is made in Japan, and actually you can get it on Amazon, that is made specifically for Sashiko stitching, that is less likely to knot. Okay, so I did one stitch, and I'm going to do another. And you see, I am not in the back. I'm not going through the fabric. And you do not have to do it like this. And I'm doing one at a time. I'm going to show you in a second how Sashiko stitching is typically done, because so many people are asking. I show it, but I think because I'm doing more demos than talking, people are asking. So we're going to go straight around here, and we're going to get this heart secure. And this is, all I'm doing is what they call a running stitch. And this running stitch is very typical, very simple. I just want to show you something. I see how I went through 2 times. Sashiko stitching, they're typically going to go 3, 4, 5, many more for the experts. You will see them. You'll see them on YouTube. They go teeny tiny little running stitches all the way through whole rows. They do it like that. I do about 5. And I do that because I am trying to stay in a straight line. It's not necessary to stay in a straight line. The beauty of Sashiko stitching is taking the ripped and the fragmented worn piece and mending it with used pieces. And the Japanese farmers, they used to do this mending late at night in the dark. They couldn't see good. They were poverty stricken. They were trying to get the garment so it would be warm for the next day for their family member to go work out in the field or themselves. So they would, and their blankets. If you look up in Google and you look for the history of the Japanese farmers creating Boro, their blankets were phenomenal. I mean, piece after piece after piece on top of piece after piece, and staggering to fill the holes and to make it warmer. It's unbelievable. And it's creativity to the max. And today you see this now in the fashion design. They're getting $5,000 a piece for some of these Boro pieces. And I'm not kidding you. They're getting, and that style was born, developed from such a humble estate, right? From such a humble way of living. It's phenomenal when you think of it. Um, okay, so see now the heart is coming together. You see the heart coming together. But I want to show you on this bracelet, on this Boro bracelet, the running stitch. So we're going to do that next. And I hope that this helps you, because I think what people are asking so many questions for there is they're looking, and I don't want this to sound wrong, but they're looking for rules and guidelines. And the way I have adapted this and the way Boro was developed, there were no rules and guidelines. It was out of necessity. So you're creating out of necessity. So if there are certain, like I said, there are certain teachers of Sashiko out there. They have the books, they have grids. So the grids look like, let me show you here quickly. A grid might look like, I don't want to give you too much info because I don't want to confuse you, but I am going to tell you this because it's so intriguing. The grid might look like this, and the whole page is full of dots. So, let's say you want to make a, V like that. You want to keep going like that, your little triangle straight across. You have your little dots to follow. And these dots actually originate, I was studying on this, they originate from something called Sona math. It's called Sona geometry. It goes way, way back to like 400 BC or way, way back. And actually, it was a woman who first initiated it as a math. So this Sona geometry is still practiced and taught, and you can get information on it from the South African sub-Saharan region. That's where this comes from. And so the Japanese, I don't know if they're aware or this is the exact same thing, but they're using dots, they're using a grid, and the South African sub-Saharan women who weaved use these also. And what they did is, I'm going to show you this because it's so interesting, and then we'll get back to this because this is related, because the Boro, the Sashiko stitching, if you want to perfect the Sashiko stitching, they do rely on grids. They will use their grids. But in the Sona geometry, it starts where you are having to, I'm not going very straight here, but you're having to connect the dots without the pen leaving the paper. And they have all types of different geo designs. So those can be applied to Sashiko. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Now we're just focusing on simple running stitch, but you can adapt embroidery stitches into the visible stitching. Absolutely. You can, people are asking that question, like what kind of stitching do you have to use? You can, it is not embroidery in the sense of the Western embroidery, because the concept is completely different. In the Western embroidery, we are manipulating it to the T. In the Boro, in this creating Boro, Sashiko stitching based on what the farmers were creating, it was out of necessity. So that's the difference, is you may not be looking for the rules and guidelines as you're creating your piece. Now I'm just about done with the heart. Now look and see the back. Okay, now Sashiko is done, and I'm gonna get over here. I'm gonna put another stitch in because I want to get on the other side. of this bracelet. Sashiko stitching is like a running stitch, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm working in the top layer. I'm gonna try to show you this here. You see, I'm doing more than one stitch. And the reason you do more than one stitch is that you really do get a sense of creating a little bit straight of a line as you get. This is going from the heart here over here. So I'm going to do this again. See if I can show you. You're working in the top layer. If you can't work in the top layer, don't. Go straight through to the back. That's okay. Once you get used to the effect of going in the fabric and out of the fabric, then challenge yourself and say, okay, look, I'm going to just focus on, I'm going to lift this up because I just want to be able to show you. And if it slips into the back layer, that's okay. I'm a little bit used to holding these like this. Well, not like this for the camera. This is a little difficult for the with the camera, but I am trying to show you. Okay, and then you pull it through. When you pull it through, give it a little tug. Not super duper tight, but give it a little tug. So there's 3, there's some more. Okay, and that's how you do. That's how you do the Sashiko stitching. So for your Boro bracelet, and then as you're going to put your Boro bracelet together, maybe like this piece, you want to whip stitch it. So you're like, okay, well, that's not going to look too good, or you think it's not going to look too good. It's an art. It's an art statement. It's a fashion statement. And this type of bracelet is it's art wear. So it's not your typical bracelet, and it's a style. And it is a statement of humbleness, and it's a statement of actually historical significance. Really tells you and reminds us how valuable creating is. So anyway, I hope that helps. If you have any questions from this, I tried to just focus on a few of the questions that were coming in about these bracelets. And people were also, there was a question of placing the fabric on there. Do you have to use basting? Do you use something to hold the fabric on while you're sewing? And I don't. I use pins. I use these, a pin like this. That's all I do. I pin it on. But actually, as you saw with this one, with the one heart, I took the pin off. You could leave the pin on, certainly, to keep it in place as you're sewing, because it most likely will move. But if you want to use basting, absolutely use basting. And you can add or take away anything from the way you're sewing these and make it your style, make it really comfortable and fun for you to create. So what makes it Boro inspired, the reason you want to say that word inspired, is because authentic Boro were made in Japan in the 1800s. Now we are inspired by that method, and we're adapting their style and way of mending and creating. So we say Boro inspired, but make it your style. There's many of these videos out there. People are putting their names on, saying inspired. It's not. It stems from way back in Japan, and might even go farther back than that. But today, we are inspired by what they created. So, um, I wanted to share that with you. I hope that that helps. If you have any questions out there, send them on in. And because I'll keep doing these videos as necessary, because many times we have to repeat things as we get new people jumping on board. And, as this channel develops over time, I am working on separate pieces of artwork for exhibits, but I'm doing compilations of them that will be coming to YouTube specifically. And they're going to be a little bit long, most likely. And but you'll see the different, other things I create with textile. But I'm all about mixing it up. you know, if you want to add, your crochet, or you're for you want to glue a piece on, whatever works, and you get the concept and you're creating something you love, that's what's important. So I hope that that helps, and I will see you in the next one, which won't be too long. Have a beautiful weekend.